Going into, I guess, your senior year of high school, you get mono. How does that affect your college stock? And then explain kind of the back and forth you went through with your college decision because of coaches leaving or getting fired.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have mono, I couldn't participate in any camps, and at that time with recruiting, it was all about what you did in camp. And since I couldn't go to any camps, I didn't get a chance to prove myself to any coaches. Didn't get a chance to go face to face with coaches, so that was tough, and it definitely put a damper on my recruiting process. And obviously, you send out your game film, and I still was fortunate to get offers, but I feel like there could have been more. So I ended up committing to Central Michigan and Brian Kelly. Sitting in his office talking to him, and then I go home, and as soon as I land back in Wisconsin, I see Brian Kelly's going to Cincinnati, and I was like, well, man, that sucks. So I reopened up my commitment.
That'd be crazy. I mean,
no, it was
literally
crazy.
for having that.
You're sitting in his office talking about big things and all these great things you want to accomplish, and then the next minute you're like, well, I guess those things are out the window. So that was kind of my first real taste of college recruiting, where, okay, this is a business. They're not buddy-buddy, it's not your family. Like, this is a business. And so then I reopened my commitment. I visited, a whole bunch of schools. Ended up committing to Minnesota, Glen Mason. And they played Texas Tech in the bowl game, and they gave up like a 40-point comeback, and they ended up losing in overtime, like 44-41. And he got fired. So, I'm sitting there like, man, like this sucks. Like both the coaches I was going to play for are leaving, so I go up and visit Minnesota. New coach there. I went up to the offices, and nobody really said hi or anything. Nobody really knew who I was. Nobody seemed to care who I was. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't think I'm going to fit in very well here, because they don't even seem to care that I'm a commit or anything. They don't. So I reopened my commitment. And by that time, it was late in the process. I had already had relationships with some of the players at Central Michigan from committing previously, and so I recommitted to Central Michigan and back to Butch Jones, because I wanted to start as a tight end as a freshman. That was my goal, and I did that. We won the MAC championship. I was a starting tight end. It was cool. Like that was the dream, but it wasn't exactly how I had the dream in my head, because I was playing tight end in a spread offense, and that's not exactly the ideal situation.
Here's what's amazing to me, and I think it was even after your first game that you playing tight end for Central Michigan that you knew it just wasn't the right fit. So you're willing to give up the scholarship at Central Michigan to, per NCAA rules, have to sit out a year, only to then go to Wisconsin, to pay to go to college, and to not even be guaranteed a spot on the football team, have to walk on. So why take the risk?
I mean, there's many reasons. I remember I came out of that first game. I was at Kansas when I was at Central Michigan. I came out of the stadium. My parents were outside the buses, and I looked them right and I said, can I transfer? And they said, what do you mean? I said, I said, this isn't going to work. Like, this isn't what I envisioned. This is not how I wanted my college career to go. I want bigger, I want better. And right there, we talked about transferring to Wisconsin, and the fact that I would be giving up a full scholarship, giving up a starting position. I'd have to walk on, sit out a year, and they told me that they could afford to pay for 1 year. And they said if I was willing to do everything possible in my power to get a scholarship at Wisconsin, if I was willing to treat every single day like my Super Bowl, that they would fully support it. And I think that anybody else looking into that situation would be like, man, you're crazy. You're a starter on a MAC championship team. You have a full scholarship. Why would you give that up? But in my head, it was a gamble on myself. I was willing to put all the chips in. I was willing to gamble everything I had on myself, knowing that nobody was going to stop me from accomplishing my goal.
I know this has since become a famous story, but you did have to have a job during that time. And talk about the 6 months you spent as pizza delivery guy, and then when you delivered the pizza to a young kid who happened to know you as a football player.
I did. I delivered pizzas for 6 months during that time. Not the worst job in the world. You get to deliver pizzas, you get to drive around in your car, listen to music. It's not that bad.
And you make okay money.
Yeah, you're making all right money.
Right.
So it was pretty cool. And I had to gain weight at the time, so I was eating pizza on my break. Like, it was great. That's just the way it went. But yeah, there was the moment where I did deliver to a family, and the little boy answered the door, and he looked up at me and was like, "Mom, J.J. Watt's here." And I had to tell him, "I have your pizza." And he just looked at his mom like, why is J.J. Watt delivering our pizza, And for me, it was one of those moments where I just was like, that kid's not supposed to look at me and think, how did this football player fall from grace? He's supposed to look at me like, that's J.J. Watt, like, that's my idol. Like, he did look at me at first. And so I wanted that feeling back. And it was just kind of a reaffirming that what I was doing and the process I was going about was right, and that everything that I was going to go through over the next year to get a scholarship, to play on the scout team, to work every single day, to sacrifice everything I had to sacrifice, that moment kind of said, it's all going to be worth it.